Hi, you're watching Reddit Confessions. What you're about to hear isn't a story about confrontation. There were no raised voices, no door slams, just a woman, a suitcase, and something I placed inside it that shattered her perfect script. She told me not to wait up. That sentence played on a loop in my head like it meant nothing. But it did. It always does. The thing about her was, everything was always calculated. Her exits, her smiles, even her silences had timing. So, when she left for the biggest pitch of her quarter, I knew better than to ask questions. I nodded like I supported her. I helped her roll the suitcase down the steps. I even complimented her dress. But I already knew. Not because she said anything, but because people who used to love you don't need to say goodbye out loud. Their absence does it for them. I wasn't planning to do anything, honestly. But when she went to take a shower before the airport car arrived, I saw her phone light up across the room. The message preview read, "Can't wait to see you in the lounge. Finally some us time." C. No name, just an initial, but that was enough. Enough to flip the entire script in my head from supportive husband to quiet exit strategist. I didn't confront her. That's not who I am. I'm the guy who lets others win the arguments just to avoid watching them walk away. I'm the guy who apologizes for things I didn't even do, just to keep the night peaceful. I'm the guy who irons the clothes she never wears anymore. So I ironed one last thing, a note, folded it carefully. Then I took off my ring, slid both into the inner pocket of her leather tote, the one she always carried to look important. She never checks that pocket, but I knew she would today. She always fidgets with it before big meetings. I didn't leave a dramatic message, no accusations, no threats. Just this: you already chose. I just finally noticed she left looking radiant, almost too radiant, like the weight of pretending had finally lifted. She kissed me on the cheek and said, "Wish me luck." I whispered, "You'll need it," but not loud enough for her to hear. 3 hours later, I got a call from an unknown number. I knew it was her. I didn't answer. Then came a single text. "You went through my bag?" I stared at the screen for a long time before replying. No, I went through hell trying not to. But the real storm came next, because the man she was meeting wasn't just a stranger to me. He was someone who once stood beside me at our wedding. By the time her plane landed, I was already seated at our kitchen table, staring at the empty space where her favorite mug used to be. She took it with her. That detail shouldn't have mattered, but it did. It told me she wasn't just packing for a pitch. She was making herself at home somewhere else. Somewhere I wasn't invited. I didn't check her location. I didn't refresh social media. I didn't need to. The silence told me enough. Callie was the type who documented everything. Coffee shots, airport lounges, the glossy smile before meetings. But this time, nothing. Not a single post. Not even a story. That's when I knew she saw the note. And the ring. And maybe, for the first time, she realized she couldn't spin this like she always did. I'd played the supportive role for years. She always said I was low maintenance, like it was a compliment. But it wasn't. It was code for invisible, replaceable, background noise. I was the man who held the camera while she posed. I was the one who adjusted the lighting while she soaked in the spotlight. And now she was in that very spotlight, about to present to executives who thought she was single, free, untethered. That's how she marketed herself lately. Not with words, but with omission. No mention of a husband. No rings and photos. Even the Christmas card she sent to her colleagues last year just said, "Warm wishes, Callie." No us, just her. So I waited, not for her to call, but for him. See, what Callie didn't know is that I had read the full message from C, and I had tapped the contact. Not a coworker, not a client. Colby Thatcher, her ex, the one who was too unstable to be around, the one she once cried about on our second date, claiming he'd ruined her ability to trust. Now, apparently, they were trusting each other in five-star lounges. I didn't want revenge. That's not what this was. I just wanted my voice back. I wanted her to feel, even for a second, what I'd been feeling for years: confusion, disbelief, and the suffocating weight of pretending nothing's wrong. That's why I sent the second note. It wasn't in her bag. It went directly to Colby's email. Attached was a photo of our wedding, her hands cupping my face, smiling like she meant it. And below it, the message, Thought you might want to see what she looked like when lying the first time. I didn't hear back from him, but hours later, Callie finally called. I didn't answer. She called again. Then she left a voicemail. I'll never forget the sound of her voice in that message. It wasn't angry, it wasn't defensive, it was breathless, rattled. Burton, I didn't plan for this too. God, please don't do anything stupid. Stupid? Stupid was believing her late meetings were just work. Stupid was thinking I wasn't enough because I didn't wear designer suits or drink overpriced bourbon. Stupid was handing her my trust like it was something unbreakable. But not anymore. She had a choice, and she made it long before I ever wrote that note. And yet, she had no idea the worst part hadn't even happened yet, because someone else, someone unexpected, was about to blow this whole thing open, and not even her perfect pitch could save her from what came next. I didn't check my phone for hours after her voicemail, not because I didn't care what she had to say, but because I knew I'd crumble if I heard too much too soon. I wanted her words to sit. I wanted the silence between us to feel heavier than any argument could. And most of all, I wanted her to wonder, not just what I knew, but what I was willing to do with that knowledge. It wasn't about punishing her. I'm not that kind of man. I don't scream. I don't throw things. I don't key cars or burn clothes. I just disappear, slowly, like fog peeling away from glass. That's how she would lose me, quietly but completely. And then came the text that flipped everything. Not from her, from my sister. Her name is Marin. She's younger, sharp, the kind of person who reads people like open books and never bothers to lie. She doesn't call much unless something's on fire. Sometimes literally, she's a fire marshal. She wrote, Burton, tell me you're not letting her walk into the Prescott event like nothing's wrong. My stomach turned. I had no idea what she meant. Prescott was a luxury resort brand, something Callie had been pitching for weeks. But Marin wasn't in marketing. She was supposed to be off duty that day. I responded, why? What's happening? What came next? I wasn't prepared. I'm working the safety protocol for their conference center this week. Guess who's currently canoodling with some man in the lounge outside ballroom C? Guess who just pulled a wedding ring out of her bag like it was a used tissue? She followed it with a photo. Blurry. Zoomed in, but it was unmistakably Callie, laughing, with Colby Thatcher, sipping wine at 11 in the morning like she was auditioning for a lifestyle magazine cover. On the table between them, my ring. I thought I'd feel rage, but all I felt was cold, like I was standing barefoot on ice. She found the ring, I texted Marin. Yeah, and she showed it to him, like it was some kind of joke. He laughed. She shrugged. They clinked glasses. I didn't move for a while. The world didn't spin. It just paused. That ring was never supposed to be a punchline. That was the moment I knew she didn't just betray me. She mocked me. My quiet act of dignity had become her lounge room comedy. I typed, deleted, retyped. I didn't want to involve Marin more, but I needed something I hadn't had in months. Truth. Do me a favor, I finally texted. Get a recording. I don't care how. Just 10 seconds I saw the typing dots appear, disappear, then return. Already did. She sent the file, no password, no warning, just Callie's voice saying, he'll probably cry or write a poem or whatever. Poor Burton. He still thinks being nice makes him hard to leave. And then Colby's voice. Let him. He's soft. Guys like that always end up alone. I played it twice. Then again. That day I didn't cry, I didn't write a poem, I didn't drink or punch walls, but I did something else. I opened our shared cloud account, the one she always forgot about, and I uploaded the audio file. Then I created a new event on her calendar, one titled, Let's See How They React When the Screen Goes Black. She was about to step on stage in front of 50 executives to pitch a rebranding campaign about authenticity, and authenticity was exactly what I was about to deliver. While Callie rehearsed her pitch, polished her smile, and prepared to charm the Prescott Resort Board into signing a 7-figure deal, I was in our living room, composing the quietest declaration of war I've ever written. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I simply dragged an audio file into a shared folder, one she hadn't touched since our honeymoon, and attached it to her most anticipated presentation of the year. The thing about Callie was, she thrived in two places, under pressure and underestimating people. She assumed I was weak because I was quiet. She assumed I'd never noticed the late-night calls, the strategy meetings that always required silk lingerie, the sudden interest in yoga retreats led by men named Colby. She assumed wrong. That morning, I learned that Prescott was live-streaming their product launch on a closed link. It was meant for investors and high-end clients, a glossy rollout of their Luxury Meets Loyalty campaign. Callie had spent months crafting it, mock-ups, slogans, influencer partnerships. But now, buried in the first slide, programmed to autoplay after her "Thank you for your trust" opener, was the audio Marin recorded, unedited, untouched. It wasn't revenge, it was documentation. She was going to talk about brand trust? Fine. Let them hear what her real brand sounded like. It was almost poetic. I watched the countdown on their site. 10 minutes to stream. Her name was in the promo banner, presented by Callie Durant, Senior Brand Architect. I stared at her face, frozen mid-laugh, perfectly filtered and detached from the reality she'd left behind. 5 minutes before the stream went live, she texted me again. "Can we talk when I get back? Please, no apology, no ownership, just a vague plea. Like maybe I'd put the ring back in her drawer and pretend none of this happened." I didn't respond. Then, the stream began. I muted the opening remarks. Some VP made a speech about integrity and long-term relationships. I sat motionless, staring at the glowing screen, knowing full well what was coming. Then she appeared. Callie stood behind the podium in a tailored blue blazer, her voice like velvet, her expression cool and practiced. "At Prescott, we believe luxury isn't about the experience alone. It's about the story behind it." Her slides clicked flawlessly. She looked every bit the rising star, until the last click. There was a slight pause, barely a second, but I saw it, the way her eyes darted, the micro stutter in her breath. The screen behind her was no longer showing the final mock-up. It was black. Then, the audio, her voice first. Sharp, flippant, unmistakable. "He'll probably cry or write a poem or whatever. Poor Burton. He still thinks being nice makes him hard to leave." A low gasp spread through the room. You could hear it echo in the mic. Then Colby. "Let him. He's soft. Guys like that always end up alone." Silence. She froze. You could almost hear the exact second her career snapped at the spine. She didn't finish the presentation. She couldn't. The live stream cut abruptly. The screen went gray. My phone rang almost instantly, then again. And again. She called 5 times. I didn't answer. Instead, I walked upstairs, opened her side of the closet, and began folding her things. Not throwing, not slashing, not burning, just folding, quietly, neatly, like the man she said was too soft to leave. At the bottom of one drawer, I found a birthday card I gave her 2 years ago. It was unopened, still sealed. On the front it said, "For the woman who changed my life." And suddenly I realized how painfully accurate that message still was. I didn't expect the fallout to be so immediate. I thought there would be damage control, some PR rep scrambling to explain the technical glitch during Callie's presentation. I thought maybe Prescott would sweep it under the rug to save face. But within an hour, her face was gone from their website. The promotional banner featuring her credentials disappeared, replaced by a sterile, "Thank you for attending" message. That alone told me everything I needed to know. Whatever reputation she had built collapsed in under 30 seconds. Not with a scandal, not with a headline, with her own voice. The calls continued. Her first voicemail was half sobbing, half spinning. She said she didn't know what happened. She claimed it was taken out of context. She even tried the old faithful. "You're blowing this out of proportion." The second message was different. It was quieter, defeated. She asked if she could come home. Said she just wanted to talk. That maybe we could still fix it. Fix it? She turned our marriage into a brand campaign and expected a damage report instead of a divorce. I didn't reply. Not yet. I wasn't ready for a conversation where I'd inevitably fold in on myself, offering grace to someone who wouldn't recognize it if it knocked on her front door wearing a name tag. I spent the night sleeping on the couch even though the bed was free. The silence in the house was too loud. Every clock ticked louder. Every floorboard groaned with the memory of a time when things were simple. before late-night meetings, before burner emails, before I started noticing how often she smiled at her phone instead of at me. Around 7 a.m., headlights hit the window. I stayed seated. She didn't knock right away. I heard the soft clink of her keys trying the door. What she didn't know was that I had changed the locks the night before. She knocked, then again, louder. I didn't move. Finally, her voice came through the wood, low, uneven. "Burton, please open the door. I know I messed up, but can we please just talk? Just for a minute?" I almost did. I almost stood up. But then she said something that froze me. I know what I said. It was wrong, but it didn't mean anything. "You took it so personally, like I meant to hurt you." That was the part that killed me. Because in her world, betrayal only counted if it left bruises you could see. She didn't understand that words could break bones you'd spent years trying to grow. She didn't get that I was already living in the wreckage, long before the audio ever played. I stood up then, not to open the door, but to leave. I grabbed the bag I had packed the night before. One change of clothes, a notebook, my father's old watch, and the wedding photo. She didn't know I'd already removed from the frame in our hallway. I opened the back door, slipped out quietly, and walked to my car. She was still knocking when I pulled away. She didn't see me leave, and I didn't look back, because I wasn't just leaving her. I was leaving who I had become with her, the man who said yes to everything, who made himself smaller to keep someone else comfortable, who called silence peace when it was actually suffocation. She wanted a rebrand. She got one. Just not the kind she expected. When I left that morning, I didn't have a plan. There was no dramatic destination waiting for me, no hotel reservation under a fake name, no poetic escape into the mountains. I just drove, past the corner where she used to wait for her ride to work, past the cafe where we pretended to be happy over cappuccinos, past the flower shop where I once bought her lilies after she said roses were too obvious. I drove until the road felt like it wasn't part of our life anymore, until the street signs stopped sounding like memories. I checked into a small motel by the edge of town. Nothing fancy, just a place with a lock that only I had the key to. For the first time in a long time, I sat on a bed that didn't smell like her perfume and stared at the ceiling without wondering if she'd be home late. I thought it would feel liberating, like a rebirth, but it didn't. It felt like grief. Grief for a version of me that had waited too long to say enough. I spent that day scrolling through messages I never answered. Friends asking if I'd seen the video clip. Colleagues forwarding links to blog posts that mentioned a branding executive's public humiliation. Even my mother sent a message, just a heart emoji and a photo of our old dog. She didn't know the details, but she knew something broke, and somehow she knew it was me. That evening, I finally opened the voicemail she left while I was driving. I don't know why. Maybe I wanted closure. Maybe I wanted to hear her voice without having to talk back. Her tone had changed. It was calmer, almost rehearsed. "Burton," she said, "I know you probably hate me. And honestly, I don't blame you. But I need you to understand something. I wasn't looking to replace you. I was looking for something I thought I'd lost in myself. I never meant for it to go this far. I didn't think you'd leave." That line made me laugh, a bitter, hollow laugh. Of course she didn't think I'd leave. She built an entire life assuming I wouldn't. Then she said something I'll never forget. "I don't want to lose you over a mistake." A mistake. That word rang in my head like a siren. No, Callie. Forgetting to lock the door is a mistake. Leaving the oven on overnight is a mistake. Carefully cultivating a second life behind my back and mocking me to your affair partner, that's a demolition job, a blueprint for emotional annihilation. And now she wanted to call it a typo in an otherwise spotless script. Later that night, I got a message from Marin. "You okay?" I typed back, "No, but I'm getting there." She sent a thumbs up and then another message. Callie's social accounts are imploding. She posted some half-hearted statement about being hacked. Comments are brutal. Everyone's calling her out. I didn't take joy in that. I wasn't built for vengeance, but there was something satisfying about the truth finally catching up to someone who'd sprinted ahead of it for so long. That night, I couldn't sleep, so I opened my notebook, the one I brought in my bag. For years, I used to jot down thoughts in there, things I was too afraid to say out loud. Things like, if I disappear, would she even notice by dinner? Why do I feel lonelier next to her than I did before I met her? Do kind people always finish last, or just the ones who marry the wrong person. But that night, I didn't write a question. I wrote a sentence. She's not the villain. I just stopped pretending she was my hero. The man who wrote that? He didn't exist 6 days ago. 2 days passed. I didn't return her calls. I didn't respond to her texts. I didn't even open the email she marked as urgent personal. I thought maybe silence would finally speak loud enough for her to hear what she'd drowned out for years. But Callie never understood silence. She feared it, the same way someone fears a locked door with no way to peek behind it. And so, instead of respecting it, she kicked it down. She showed up at the motel. I heard her voice before I saw her. It was muffled through the front desk walls, polite but insistent. Fake sweet with a layer of desperation. Could you please just ring him? Tell him it's his wife. I know he's here. I didn't answer the knock. Not right away. I stood behind the door, staring at the handle, feeling my pulse in my fingertips. Part of me still wanted to open it, still wanted to believe that maybe, somehow, all of this could be solved with a long conversation and a few honest tears. But I wasn't that man anymore. She knocked again. "Burton," she said, softer now, "I'm not here to make excuses. I'm not here to argue. I just need to talk to you, face to face. Please." Her voice cracked on the last word. I opened the door. She looked exactly how I expected. Put together, but not in control. Like she'd used every last ounce of energy getting here and had nothing left once she arrived. She wasn't wearing makeup. That was rare. Her eyes were swollen. Her hair pulled back like she didn't have time to fake confidence. She stepped inside slowly, as if waiting for me to change my mind. I didn't offer her a seat. She stood near the edge of the bed, clutching her phone like it was a shield. "I deserved what you did," she started. "The clip, the timing, everything. I don't even know how you got it, but I get it. I embarrassed you. I disrespected you. She stopped, swallowed. "I betrayed you." I didn't nod. I didn't flinch. I just stared, let her sit in it. "I don't expect you to forgive me. But I need to tell you why it happened." I almost laughed. Of course she had a why. Callie always had a narrative, a reason, a root cause. She probably practiced this on the way over. She took a breath. "I didn't cheat because I stopped loving you. I cheated because I stopped recognizing myself. Somewhere along the line, I became this version of me that only existed for applause and performance and control. I couldn't breathe in it anymore. And Colby, he made me feel like I was still in charge of something." There it was, a confession wrapped in self-pity. I didn't respond. She stepped closer. "But he doesn't matter." He never did. "The second you played that recording, I realized I was trying to win a game you weren't even playing." I finally spoke. "No, you were trying to win a game where I wasn't even on the field." She closed her eyes. "I know. And I hate that I let it go this far. I hate that I made you the villain in my head just so I could justify what I was doing." I turned away. Her presence was too loud for a room that small. "I want to fix this, Burton," she said quietly. "I know it's probably too late, but I'll do anything. Counseling, therapy, a complete career reset. I already turned down the contract extension. I don't even have a job right now." I almost pitied her. But then she said it. "I'm still your wife." And I shook my head, finally turning back to her. "No, Callie. You were my wife, until the moment you made a stranger laugh at the man who gave you everything." She didn't cry. That surprised me. She just looked hollow. "I'll leave," she whispered. "But can I ask one thing before I go?" I nodded once. She reached into her bag and pulled out something small, my ring. She walked over, gently set it on the table, and said, "I kept it. Even after the video, even after you left. Because part of me thought maybe you'd ask for it back, and I needed to be ready if you did." Then she walked out. No hugs, no final plea. Just the sound of the door clicking shut behind her. And for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel broken. I felt like a man finally standing on ground that wasn't shifting beneath him. I stared at the ring long after the door closed. It sat on the table like it didn't weigh anything at all, just a small circular reminder of everything I had carried alone for years. The vows, the excuses, the way I used to lower my voice so hers could rise louder in every conversation. The way I waited and waited and waited for her to see me. I didn't put it back on, but I didn't throw it away either. Instead, I walked outside for the first time in days without flinching at the sunlight. It hit my face like a reset button. I took a long breath. One of those deep ones where your chest actually rises again. I drove to a small bookstore in town, the one with the dusty windows and coffee that always tasted like cinnamon, no matter what you ordered. The owner remembered me. "Rough week?" he asked. I smiled. "Actually, maybe the best one I've had in a long time." He raised an eyebrow but didn't push. I bought a new journal, not to write about pain, but about the space I was finally making for something else. Peace, self-respect, possibility. All the things I had once traded just to keep someone who didn't know how to hold them. Later that night, I checked my phone for the last time, not to see if Callie had written again. She hadn't. But Marin had sent one more message. "Proud of you. And also, please burn that shirt you've worn for 3 days straight." That made me laugh. A real one this time. I took the ring, placed it in a small box, and slid it into the drawer of the motel nightstand. Not as a goodbye, but as a reminder. Not all endings have to be explosions. Sometimes they can just be choices. Calm, clear, final. I'm not broken. I'm not angry. I'm free. And for the first time in years, I can finally say that with my full voice. That's the end of this story, but maybe it's the beginning of yours.